On the 7th of April 2025, Press Gazette, a leading voice in UK journalism, released a report on the growing pandemic of AI bots. They exposed an influx of so-called expert quotes in the media that, upon investigation, turned out to come from AI bots rather than real people. This strikes at the heart of what binds journalism and public relations: trust. I believe a question worth asking is, has AI, once a promising tool, now gone rogue?
It is really scary in the space that we are in, obviously, because it can do the things that we can do, but I don't believe it's as good as us, and I don't think it ever will be.
I think people don't understand how AI works, which is essentially the fact that AI is a mirror for human life and not the other way around.
I'm Gloria Ochai, storyteller, writer, and host of Noises and Notions, a podcast where we clear the blur between fact and feeling to uncover what truly matters. To understand the impact of AI on public relations, I reached out to two professionals who are already navigating this new terrain, Caitlin Wambi and Mofe Okuoga. Caitlin is an account executive at Prohibition PR, a public relations agency in Leeds, and when asked about her general overview of AI, she describes it as an intern at best.
So when I say use it as an intern, I wouldn't say it's going to replace the internships that are out there in the PR landscape. I would say you should use it as a personal intern. Look at it as this is the work. You would never send an intern's work straight to a client. You would always check it, tweak it, make it better in some sense. I am an advocate of AI in the right way. I think it will help us predict public sentiments. It can help you tailor campaigns. It can help you brainstorm. And I think it will just cut our professional time down to what we need to do best, which is create engaging content for our clients, create things that are going to resonate with consumers and audiences.
She compares AI to an intern, and it's a metaphor that sticks. Interns are helpful, sure, but you wouldn't put them in charge. Well, not right away. Mofe, a senior account executive at CC Group, a Hoffman agency in London, and a recent recipient of the PR Week People and Places Award, shares Caitlin's view that AI, when used wisely, can be a real asset.
It definitely has some of its good benefits, like it's really fast at doing some things, whereas I could have spent a whole lot of time doing them. But at the same time, just conscious that this is a technology that consumes a huge amount of compute power. And we essentially have to self-regulate in some ways and just to be conscious about how we use it. So it's not necessarily a case of being pro AI or not. For me, it's just the fact that I use it, but I also know that it's problematic. People's work are being used in ways where they're not necessarily giving approval for these companies to use them, and they're being, in quotes, ripped off, right? I don't think the issue necessarily is with the tech itself, but how it's being used and how it's been governed. It's sort of changed how I work in the sense that it's made it faster, but then it's really not the big things, right? It's just the little things that sort of make sort of like save you like a lot of time.
What Mofe hints at, and what many fear, is a slow erosion of responsibility. In journalism and in the wider world, that fear often takes shape as professionals and people in general quietly leaning on AI to do their work, especially the writing. The giveaway? Some say it's the overuse of the legendary M dash. So, I asked, how can you tell when a piece has been written by AI?
The really long dash in copy, which is annoying because I love a dash when I'm writing. AI doesn't put a space between the words. It's just a really, really elongated dash. And as soon as I see that, I kind of switch off. Using emojis at the start of social copy is also an AI giveaway, as well as the obvious like Americanized spelling, just anything, tone of voice. If it doesn't match the brand, you can tell.
On the other hand, Mofe questions the premise entirely. He doesn't just dismiss the M-dash theory, he challenges the very idea that we need to police AI's fingerprints in this way.
I would like to describe myself as a writer before anything else. As someone who has been writing fiction from like the age of 15. As someone who loves to use the M dash, I find this very infuriating because I think people don't understand how AI works, which is essentially the fact that AI is a mirror for human life and not the other way around. AI uses the M dash because people use the M dash and because writers use the M dash, and I think especially writers on which it's been trained on. I basically just find the conversation nonsensical, right? That's just sort of like the way I would like to say it. Because if I give a prompt to ChatGPT and I say, I want you to repeat this word, a man is jumping, I don't know. And then ChatGPT says that, how do I differentiate ChatGPT's a man is jumping from the one that I wrote by myself? That's sort of like a limited text and you can't really like train it to recognize that. But I don't see how practically you can train it to recognize AI text. I honestly don't even know if there's an algorithm for that, because how do you honestly differentiate human generated text from AI generated? I don't know. It's just not very real to me. It just feels like a scam. Like people are trying to sell you software and it's all just fake. I don't have very positive feelings about that, as you can tell. And it's something that I'm very passionate about because I don't just see how it works. I think it's unlike the plagiarism tracker, which essentially searches the internet to check, okay, how similar is this to what's. I don't have issues with that, but it's sort of like a more truthful way to measure stuff than whether something has been generated by AI. I just think it's nonsense.
That's one way to look at it. That all this speculation is just noise, a distraction from what truly matters. But take a step back, and what's really at stake comes into focus. Underneath the style debates and sentence structure theories, the real anxiety isn't about how AI writes, it's about something much bigger: who it might replace. In media and communications, especially, the quiet worry isn't about punctuation, it's about permanence. Will this tool one day etch people out of the work entirely?
I don't think we're there yet, in the sense that the tools that we use for AI, the AI tools we use for PR, they're sort of intuitive in a way where they're designed to be low barrier, easy to use applications because they understand that the people who are using them are not tech. I don't say tech savvy, they're sort of like tech pros. The other point on that is I've seen more jobs being created by AI in terms of people are now head of AI in PR agencies where that job didn't exist like a year ago, right? For now, I'm not saying how AI is removing a few jobs or taking away jobs. I think ultimately, with more efficiency, means that people think, okay, now we don't need as many people as we do before. That's standard. But for now, I don't just think we're there yet.
I can't speak for the future, but I think AI will never have that human aspect of it. It will never have that. It will always speak like a robot. It will always get things wrong. We always say you should use AI as an intern. It's never going to be the best work. It's never going to be an end product. I don't think it's ever going to be able to take over jobs. I don't think humans would put the trust in it to take over jobs. It's never ever going to have the experience we do, have the client knowledge, have the media landscape knowledge that we do. And it always gets things wrong. It pulls things from a website that you've probably never heard of and has never been looked at and has a DA of like 2.
In today's PR landscape, there's a growing understanding. AI can support the work, but it shouldn't and might never replace the worker. Although, with its rapid growth, one can only wonder what the future of AI is in the PR industry.
And I think it'll be a lot more data informed, agile, kind of hyper personalized. I think they're going to probably try and get that human aspect into it as much as possible. So yeah, I think in 5 to 10 years, it will be a lot better. It will probably try and take over our lives, but you have to have a human touch. You have to have someone checking that content. So it might develop and it might be able to become an account manager, but it's still going to need to be checked.
I think also different organizations are developing their own AI tools for things like predictive analysis, right? AI is obviously not just about the chatbots, but people are using AI for the different use. And I think one of the things that people are looking at is predictive analysis. What would give us an edge and like how people think in a way that we can construct our communication in that way, or being able to react pretty quickly to how people are reacting.
Both responses hint at the same reality. PR professionals can't afford to ignore AI, but neither should they surrender to it. Finding that balance is crucial. That tension between embracing the tech and resisting its overreach. It got me wondering, what kinds of AI tools are actually part of the PR day to day?
It's the general ones, really. I'm not using any sort of like groundbreaking tools because most of my work just means that the two things I use mostly are ChatGPT and Perplexity AI. In terms of like the research that I mentioned earlier, the fact that Perplexity does references or links, and ChatGPT really is just like a great conversationalist, I guess. But they're not necessarily tools I interact with on a day-to-day. For me, the two things that I use mostly are ChatGPT and Perplexity.
I think one that I would definitely recommend is Meltwater. It's a social listening tool and it's really, really great, especially for like PR agencies. So if there's anything kind of in the media landscape, you can specifically ask it to pick out the mention of your client. You can then report that back to your client, say if it's a crisis, situation, or if there's negative comments being put out about the brand that need to be addressed. You don't have to do the searching for it. It's sent directly to your email and you basically can go from there and not have to do all the desk-based research and checking and things like that that take quite a lot of your day. So I would recommend that one for definite. I think that's a really great tool.
Tools, yes. Dependence, well, not quite for most professionals, but it will be dishonest to ignore the near constant reliance on AI tools in today's world, from content to code to AI generated images. It's not just writers feeling the pressure. Surprisingly, artists are in the crosshairs too, but that's a conversation for another episode. For now, how can PR professionals better navigate the industry with AI?
The most important thing for me is basically what you said about the over reliance on AI, because it just means that if everyone is using AI, we're all getting the same things. And a big part of our job essentially is trying to stand out in a positive way, whether that's trying to get the attention of journalists or trying to, even when that's published, trying to get the attention of the audience, like people who are going to read it, right? I think ultimately you just have to realize that if everyone uses AI, you're not standing out. Do you want to stand out? Most times, yeah. There are times you ultimately don't want to stand out. But if you are aware that the best way to do something is to apply or the best way to work rather is to apply your experience from living as a human being and interacting with other human beings. I think that generally is just like the best way to go about it, because AI doesn't take the trains, AI doesn't like sit on the tube and inhale the, I don't want to comfort TFL, but essentially the point I'm trying to make is you have unique experiences, and I just advise everyone to leverage that as much as possible, because that's, I think, one of the many things that AI currently can't do, is to be a human being. So be good at being a human being, I guess.
It can do so much, and I feel like what it can do is limitless. I think it's just going to keep progressing and become more data driven and more clever. And it is really scary in the space that we are in, obviously, because it can do the things that we can do, but I don't believe it's as good as us, and I don't think it ever will be. So we need to take into account all of our professionalism, all of our expertise, our insight, and really just run with it. I think if we can develop our skills even more, it's never going to be able to catch up with us. We should be creative, vigilant, obviously, and making our recommendations as we do, but just progress them more. I think if you use it in the right way, you're going to probably excel and have more time to be that creative side of things that you want to do. But if you use it in the wrong way, you're going to be penalized for it and your career might take a downward spiral or whatever it may be. So my advice would be just don't fear AI, but be vigilant.
What they are pointing to is something more human, the quiet value of lived experience, of stories and ideas that come from being in the world, not just generating from data. Creativity can't be outsourced. Well, not meaningfully. The AI conversation can be noisy. Opinions clash, notions collide. But somewhere in the middle is the truth, or at least something worth sitting with. I describe AI as the one that is here to stay, whether we like it or not. It's helpful, but there's a blurred line, and as professionals, we must make sure that that line isn't crossed. AI isn't the enemy. Misuses Thank you for listening to Noises and Notions. If this episode sparked a thought, a question, or even a side eye at your ChatGPT tab, share it, subscribe, leave a review, and tune in next time as we clear the blur between fact and feeling. I'm Gloria Ochai, and until next time, stay thoughtful.